I mean, I think we're pretty much ready to get started. What do you guys say? So, welcome to JMCooks. Today, so we've been playing Persona 5 Royal on the channel, and I thought it would be appropriate to make the Sojiro Sakura special. We're having curry and coffee. I'm making both. It's gonna be good. And some people listen. I'm just gonna reveal it right now. We are using a couple shortcuts. Okay, I have the box, but the thing is, in order to make this an episode that I can do in a reasonable amount of time, and to make it something that you guys at home can do without being intimidated, this isn't going to be something that takes all day. I think we're going to be in and out in under 30 minutes, and we're going to have a delicious pot of curry. So let's get started here. All right. So our ingredients we got to work with here. I've got an onion that I had partially used in the fridge, some carrots that I've already peeled, nice potato that I've washed and cleaned. We've got our box of curry. So these come like this, little pouches, and my rough analysis is one of these squares is probably good for like one serving of curry. So we're gonna use this whole thing, and we're gonna make about enough curry for 4 people. I've got about 3 cups of chicken stock here. I made this with liquid bouillon. Obviously, if you have fresh stock, you can use that. If you're vegetarian, you can use vegetable stock or just water if you want. It's fine. And then I've got, I don't know, about a pound of chicken thigh meat. You can also use whatever kind of meat you want. This is just what I had laying around. I would just not recommend, don't use chicken breast meat, in my opinion. It doesn't have enough fat. It won't have enough moisture. When it cooks in the curry, it's going to get all dry and stringy. But other than that, everything should be good. And I think that's about all our ingredients for the curry. So, first we're going to chop up our vegetables here. We're going to do our onions in kind of a rough dice. I've already made the first incisions on this one because I used part of this onion another day. Once again, I always recommend, I sharpened my knife before I did this with my sharpening steel. I always recommend make sure your knife is sharp, because a dull knife is a dangerous knife. You'll end up using more force, which makes you more likely to hurt yourself. Alright, next up we'll cut up this potato. Usually this is the way I do it. I'll quarter it and then get nice big chunks here. So I'm going to be putting the potatoes and carrots together, and I'm going to show you guys why in just a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to show you a neat little way to cut carrots. If you're putting them in a stew or something like that, what I like to do is you make an angled cut, and then you turn it about, 90 degrees. You do about a third turn, a little more than a quarter turn, and then you cut at the same angle, and then you do another turn, cut, another turn, cut, another turn, cut, and so on. And as you get to the wider part of the carrot, you might want to cut less so that you end up with even-sized pieces or thereabouts. And then you get these nice little shapes that I think are a little more fun than having, triangular pieces. Throw these in with the potatoes. All right. So the reason why I'm putting these together, we're going to take another little shortcut here. This is a technique that I'm stealing from Ivan Orkin, who's a cookbook author. And basically, if we want to cook these in like our curry, like boil them in the stock, it's going to take a long time, because these are really hard vegetables. It takes a long time for them to soften up. So instead what we're going to do is we're going to use good old Mr. Microwave. By the way, I have some rice going in the rice cooker, so we're going to have that with our curry as well. So I'm just going to throw these in here for like 4 whole minutes. And so these are really they're going to like par cook in the microwave, kind of like how you parboil potatoes before certain preparations. And it's going to save us a ton of time, and you're really not going to notice the difference. They're still going to be super amazing and flavorful. So our next step is we're going to sear off our chicken thighs. I'm going to put a little glug of oil in here. That might be too much oil. That's definitely too much oil, but we'll survive. And I'm going to sear this cubed chicken meat, but it's too much to sear it all in one go, so we're going to do 2 batches actually. You don't want to crowd a pan when you're trying to brown something. We're trying to get some brown color on the chicken. You can't crowd the pan because then there's going to be too much water, and you can't brown something if there's water in it because water can't get above boiling temperature. So basically we're going to brown it in 2 batches to get a way nicer coat on there. And the other thing that we're doing by searing this chicken, in addition to giving flavor to the chicken, we're also building up a fond on the bottom of the pan that we're going to deglaze with our chicken stock and get some really beautiful flavor that way. Good. So we're going to add about half of this chicken, if I'm able to do that. That looks like about half. Maybe a little more. And let it sit for a little bit. If you try to keep it moving right at the beginning, it's going to be more likely to stick. I'm using a stainless steel pan, which is a little sticky, but I mean, it's not sticky, but things tend to stick to stainless steel, is what I'm saying. But we have a lot of oil in there, so I think we'll be fine. So again, we're just trying to get brown color on this, and don't worry about cooking it all the way through, because we're going to cook it like we're going to boil it later. We're going to simmer it, so it's going to finish cooking through during that. We're just worried about color right now. Color. So just try to get the chicken brown on all sides. So yeah, we're just going to set this aside for now, and then once we have the actual curry going, we'll put it back in and let it simmer with everything else. Those brown bits on the bottom, if you see them starting to get a little too brown, you may want to turn down your heat a little bit. In fact, I'm going to turn it down even a little further. There we go. Alright. I'm going to get this out. So now we're going to throw in our onion. And you want your heat to be fairly low at this point for the onion because, unlike the chicken, onions just have so much water in them that you're not going to be able to color them until you get the water out. So we're just going to let this go, and it's going to leak out its water, and then eventually it's going to start to develop that rich, sweet, chocolatey onion flavor that gets when you start to kind of caramelize it on the edges. So just keep it moving to make sure that the stuff on the bottom doesn't burn. Oh my gosh, the smell, guys, you wouldn't believe it. I'm gonna salt these a little bit. Not too much because again, there's a lot of salt in the curry packet, but this will help them weep their water better, as well as making sure that we don't get any bits of unseasoned onion in our final product. Now, if you've ever made, like, real, like, fully caramelized onions, like for French onion soup or something, that takes a really, really long time. I don't know, like 20, 30 minutes. But these, we're not fully caramelizing them. We're just going until they get a little brown and chocolatey around the edges, which you can see it's starting to happen now, but I think maybe another minute or 2 would do it really well. Alright, they're definitely starting to get nice and soft and get that brown color around the edges that we're looking for. Maybe like another minute. Alright, I think we're good. So we're going to add our chicken stock and then really make sure to scrape off the bottom of the pan and get that fond up in here, because you are going to need that. So this is deglazing. In case you don't know, that's what deglazing means, is using liquid to free all the delicious flavor from the bottom of the pan. So we'll get that all up in there, and we'll go ahead and add our par-cooked carrots and potatoes, and we're going to add our curry packet. So you can, here's the pro tip, you can break it into 4 pieces in here. So yeah, if you want to make a half batch, enough for 2 people, just use 2 of these squares. But we're making enough curry for 4 people, so we're using 4 squares. And these take quite a long time to melt and break down, so that's going to be happening. And then finally, our chicken. So we're going to let this come up to a simmer, and we're going to simmer it for about 15 minutes. And while that happens, we're gonna make our coffee. So I'm gonna be making coffee with a pour over. So I have a Hario V60. These are pretty cheap, and there's like a million knockoffs that work really well. And then I have this little carafe that we're gonna make it into. It holds about 2 cups of coffee. We're gonna be making 600 milliliters of coffee. And I use a 1:16 ratio, 37.5 grams of coffee. I'm just going to round to 38. There we go. I have a pretty nice grinder. I bought it like this year. It's a Baratza Encore. But honestly, whatever grinder you have, as long as it's fresh ground, that's what matters. Oh yeah, and by the way, I have this on a pretty fine setting. You don't want it to be as fine as like French, or as fine as like espresso, but you want it to be pretty fine. I think like drip coffee is like somewhere in the middle, and then like French press coffee is like really coarse, but you want it pretty fine. Oh yeah, and now our curry is up to like a vigorous, this is like a rolling boil. That's not what you want. You want a simmer. You want bubbles occasionally coming up. And be sure to stir this occasionally to make sure nothing is burning to the bottom or anything. What we're doing with the curry right now while we just let this simmer is we just want it to reduce. We want it to stop being like so liquid and start being like a nice, you know, saucy, thick curry. For the coffee, these are Hario filters. They're just the filters that they sell that are supposed to be good for this size of cone. So here's what I do is I fold down this little seam so that it lays flat. Put it in there, and then I take the hot water and you just pour it down, and you don't spill like I did. And we're doing 2 things here. We're washing the little paper flakes or whatever that are lurking in here. We're washing those in. And then the second thing is we're heating up the carafe. Because if you take hot coffee from the cone and it goes into a cold carafe, it's not going to cook right. Or it's not going to brew right, I should say. So we'll pour all that out. Put our coffee grounds in. I like to kind of make sure it's spread even and make a little divot in the middle. So our water's boiling. So again, our final number here we're looking for, I'm making 600 milliliters of coffee, so 600 grams. And so the first thing that you do when you're making a pour over is you have to bloom the grounds. You have to bloom them. So basically just get all the coffee in there a little wet. If there's any dry spots, go ahead and touch them up. All right, and then we're just gonna let that sit for like 30 seconds. Okay, that's probably good. So now I'm just gonna start slowly pouring. And basically you just wanna make sure that you get every inch of this, and there's no spots where dry coffee grounds are like hiding out in here. So you just wanna make sure that you kind of keep things moving and don't let any grounds settle or stick to the side or whatever. And we're just gonna pour till we get to 600 grams. And if you have to pause and wait a little bit for it to go down before you pour more, it's totally fine. Oh, we're getting full, guys. We're getting full to the top. Okay, 600. And then once that starts to go down a little bit, just because I don't want to drop, I like to do a little bit of a swirl. I just kind of spin it a little bit so that it, you know, gets the grounds inside moving. And swirl. I think maybe another swirl is in order here. There we go. All right, so all our coffee has run through. So we're gonna pick this up, make sure it's done dripping. I'll pour our little cup here so it can cool a little faster. All right. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo, that is. This coffee, guys, this coffee is so good. Ah, so rich, so bold. It's like 1 in the afternoon. I usually, you know, coffee's more of a morning thing for me, but it's a Saturday. What have I got to lose? let's come back to our curry here. The consistency of the curry, you kind of want it to have that like sticks to the back of the spoon consistency. This is a little wet. I'm just like obsessed with this coffee. I'm drinking so much of this. Oh my gosh, it is getting so thick. All right, I think we're ready, guys. Let me plate up some of this rice. We got our rice. Use my big old ladle. Get some curry. Make sure we get lots of those vegetables and stuff. There she is, baby. I really want to try it, but it's so hot. It's so hot, guys. But, you know, I have to. Sometimes you have to take risks, okay? Sometimes, for the entertainment of the chat, you have to take some risks. Oh, you guys have no idea. That is so good. It's spicy. The vegetables are perfectly soft. Let me try some chicken here. The chicken's great too. Like I said, when you use chicken thigh as opposed to breast, it doesn't dry out. It just gets nice and moist. Gets to that point where it kind of falls apart when you simmer it like that. And then of course, we gotta have the coffee, guys. Oh, man. Listen, I mean, I'm on board. Some people joke, you know, some people joked in Persona, like, is curry and coffee really a good combination? I think we proved it. It's an incredible combination. It's so good. It's so delicious. So, yeah. That's gonna be pretty much it for this episode of JMCooks. I hope you guys had fun. Be sure to let me know what future recipes you would like to see. If there's anything you think would be fun to watch me cook, let me know. And thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.